The Lassie Talks podcast.
Hi, I'm Yvonne,
And I'm Robert.
and welcome to the Lassie Talks podcast, number 1, episode 1. Oh, there's Joy in the background. Come here, Joy. Penny, it is. Pop up. Penny's just doing a bit of action prompting there with Elliot from Monkey Nut Audiobooks. And that's something we're going to talk about, aren't we? Barking.
We are going to talk about barking. We're going to talk about lockdown puppy blues and all the problems that these lockdown puppies may be causing. We're particularly looking forward now. Lockdown is coming to an end. We're still in it now, but it's just on the horizon. People will be perhaps going back to more normal lives, we hope. And that may bring up some issues. What do you think, Yvonne?
Yep, I think the actual problems may start with our puppies, once the rules are relaxed. I often found when we were practicing, yes, let's talk about us a little bit.
Well, it might be a good idea to give a bit of background.
Yeah, well, I'm a behaviourist and dog trainer, and Robert is?
Oh, well, I'm a vet. I've been practicing for now over 40 years and just recently retired from practice where I was running a practice and looking after people's mainly domestic animals, certainly in the latter part of my career. And so wealth of experience and hopefully we'll be able to give you a health tip each talk.
Yeah, and also it was our passion, wasn't it, for behaviour? We ran a behaviour clinic together.
Yes, the more you realise that a dog's emotions and it affects its behaviour, the more I realise that getting the right balance of that enabled the actual veterinary procedures to progress much more smoothly than if you're fighting a dog and terrifying it or doing something that just puts it on edge. Dogs, cats, anything really, but we're obviously going to be talking about dogs.
Yeah, and the whole health of a dog is not just about the bodily functions, it's about their heads as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think in many situations it's as important, if not more important, to get the dog seen as a holistic creature, not just whether it's lame or it's got a bad ear or whatever. It is about the dog itself and the dog's environment, and instructing people and giving information to people on how they may make their dog's life better is so important. After all, dogs live with us.
Yeah, and going back to making your lives better, as I was saying, that, our clients, particularly pregnant ladies, used to come back to us a year after when they'd had the baby, they'd had the year's maternity leave, and they'd gone back to work, baby'd gone off to childminder, dog was left on their own in the house, and they were getting problems.
Yeah, and that's right. And of course, now we're in this lockdown and people have gone out and got their little puppy to give them companionship and some joy and happiness in what can be a terrible situation for people locked in. And now they're perhaps thinking, oh, I'm going back to work. The children have gone back to school, and things are changing. The environment's changing. How can we address this so that the dog is not badly affected by the change in circumstances? And of course, it does affect dogs in a big way. So what are the big problems, you think, Yvonne, for people to consider when they're going back to work, perhaps, and leaving the puppy for some hours at home on its own for the first time, perhaps?
Well, you're going to get, perhaps, neighbours complaining about the dog barking.
That's a biggie, that is.
Coming back home from work and finding your furniture's chewed.
Yeah, or other items, and you never know what they might get up to.
And of course, that might end up for you, a vet having to do surgery. And,
absolutely.
swallowing foreign bodies of Well, various sorts. We've
foreign
seen it all.
bodies, any object that shouldn't be there that the dog has swallowed that shouldn't have done. But there's also other dangers, aren't there? Like electric cables and things like that.
Oh yeah. We've
there's
had
a
some
whole
horrible cases over
there's
the
a
years.
whole host of things that could cause trouble. So we've got to think ahead. Do you not think?
Yeah, and that's when I think about either using a crate or the kitchen with a baby gate.
Yeah. What you call gated communities. But perhaps some people don't know what a crate is, Yvonne. What do you think? How could you best describe how to use a crate?
Well, the thing is with crates is that there she goes. Action prompting again. Come on, girlie. Okay. Alley up on your bed. Thank you. Okay, we can wait, can't we? Yeah. Yes. So I'm going to give her a few minutes to lie down and relax again, and then we'll talk about how you can treat and get the dog used to crates or to be going on their bed, to relax and learn how to relax. And that's the thing we want to do, is help our dogs relax while they're, being left alone. I start, and this is the thing, we've got to think ahead. Well done, girlie.
Yeah, we have got to think ahead. A lot of people now, it's been months and months of on-off lockdown, and the puppy's been at home, and it's now becoming a adult dog in some cases, certainly into adolescence in many cases. And that dog's had children around, it's had maybe both of the human parents around, and they got used to that. And everything's been a very tight family. But now things might be thinking of going back to work, children back at school, as we say. And that's going to leave this puppy, young dog, that has been totally in the family, suddenly on its own, perhaps.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, this crate, or being in a kitchen, in its bed, with everything cleared out of its way, nothing on the surfaces so that it can go counter surfing. That's another.
Depends on the size of the dog, of course.
But that's for another podcast, counter surfing. But you want to get the dog to relax, and we start the training before we actually, leave the dog. So we do what I call Home Alone training. Do you remember the film Home Alone?
Yeah,
it's going back a bit. But I start the dog with saying, now we're going to not be able to give you attention now. And what I do with that is I hang up a wind chime, so it's an auditory cue that I can't give you attention, and it's also a visual cue. And then I put the wind chime up and, have the dog in the crate with a nice tasty Kong, stuffed Kong. And then I leave the dog for a few, minutes. And then
can I bring you in? Not everyone that's listening might know what you mean by a stuffed Kong.
Oh yeah. Do you remember I told a client once to go get a stuffed Kong, and they looked in all the supermarkets and they couldn't find one anywhere. I felt so guilty.
Like a stuffed turkey.
Yes. It's actually a toy, and it's called a Kong. But we stuff it. We don't actually buy it stuffed. And we can put loads of nice, tasty things in it. I tend to, stick lovely wet food in it and then stuff a load of dry biscuits in first, and then the wet food on top to keep the dry biscuits. And that will keep a dog amused for
they can sit there and lick it. And they come in different sizes. And there are also other makes other than Kong.
Oh, yes.
That we hope we might get sponsorship from Kong. But the term Kong is a bit like a biro and things like that. It's a name that describes a treat dispensing toy, in effect.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
You've got to make sure that we're
yes, we'll
specific on what we're saying.
We'll be PC here. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and also, what can you say about chewing?
Chewing. Well, chewing is very important. I was going to bring that up in my health tip at the end. And but chewing is an important stress relieving pastime for a dog. Dogs chew naturally. They chew more puppies because they may be teething and exercising their newly growing teeth, and of course they're exercising the muscles of mastication. That's the muscles they would use in nature to catch, grip, and get their prey if they were still wild dogs, but they're not. They're at home, and we often provide food directly to them in a very digestible manner. So they need something to exercise their jaws, and chewing is the way to do it. So I'll talk about dental care perhaps a bit later, because that's the other offspin of chewing, but chewing doesn't
but
solve all the problems.
Yes, but the thing is that chewing actually does relax a dog.
It's a relaxing.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we could do is for an action prompter like Penny, thank you, is to pop up, is get a chew for her to
yes,
sit
she could
and
she could
relax
have
her.
something that she would be happy to sit there and chew. Now, chews come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and you have to find something that's safe and suitable size and texture for your own dog. Our dogs are quite big dogs, and they need something quite substantial, but smaller dogs need something less. And some dogs, very small toy breeds, are not very good at chewing. But if you can encourage them to chew, it has good health benefits as well as behavioural benefits.
Yes, and it relaxes your dog. So we'll go back to our wind chimes and teaching the dog to be left for short periods of time. Another tip I would say is don't allow your puppy to follow you everywhere. Now, we all know that puppies do this, and it seems really cute, doesn't it? They even follow you into the toilet, Pen?
Yes, and very cute when they're little, but it can be a bit annoying when you do need to be on your own. And people may have found that when they're working from home. I think people who have got young puppies, dogs, and they're working from home, and they've got a Zoom call or something with the head office, or they've got something to do on their computer, and what they don't want is this sort of thing. Yeah. Now,
action prompt.
Some puppies are just perfect. They will come and they will lie down and be content with that. But other dogs, particularly the more worky type of breeds, will want something going on. And then if they're not getting the attention, that's when the bad behaviours start.
Yeah, and this is the thing with Penny here and Fred. I don't know if you can see him behind the table, but they're both working border collies, aren't they? So that that
they're very active and know exactly what's going on, and
this is the first time they've experienced this with all the setup.
Our first podcast, so here we go.
But we're training her as we're doing it.
Absolutely,
right, Penny.
Here she comes again.
Right, pop up.
But she's on the go all the time, and that's just the sort of dog she is.
Yeah.
Other dogs other dog I was going to say was calm, but has suddenly decided that actually she's missing out.
Yeah.
Some dogs are much calmer and easier, and
it's breed type, isn't it?
Breed type, and we'll talk about that on one of our future podcasts, I suspect. So back to puppy blues. So the first thing we're talking about is this separation idea that's coming down the line.
Hello, girl. Yeah. So we, as you can see, we've got a big girly here. What we want to do is to stop this, action prompting that she's doing now.
Yeah, we're getting a whittle, aren't we?
Yeah, and we want to train them to get used to us doing other things while we're about the house.
Yeah, because in a funny way, we've been in lockdown just the same as everyone else, and they've got very used to being the centre of attention, if you like,
absolutely,
in the household. And
can you give Joy a treat.
I will just grab a treat and give Joy a treat.
There you go. She's feeling left out. But the thing is, what we need to do is to think about, and perhaps we should have done that. We should have perhaps put our dogs behind
Well, I think you're right,
our baby gates that we've got, because, then we wouldn't have had all this wandering about and action prompting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because they all want something to do, and they're saying, hey, this is not something we do normally, but we're going to make this podcast quite a normal thing that we'll be doing fairly regularly.
And hopefully we'll, be able to train the dogs to actually, cope with the situation.
Yeah.
Or, you see, the thing is, whoops, there you go, she's knocked down the set. We'll just have Elliot put that back together.
Yeah.
No, what I would suggest is you've got 3 dogs, or if you live in a multi-dog household, often people think that that's not going to cause problems, but they act like a different animal when they're separate, to each other. And we don't know if you've, bought a new puppy. And some sad cases we've dealt with is when the owners have gone out for the day and left their new puppy with their older dogs and come back to the other puppy, the puppy being bitten badly, or there's been a little bit of a fight.
That does happen.
And things like that.
Dogs will fight over things.
Yes.
And very often it's what we might call a resource, something that they want, and so does the other dog, and there is a squabble over it. And perhaps we can talk about that. We call it resource guarding.
Yep.
So we are covering quite a lot of ground, and it is something that we will do bit by bit over time, because we can't cover everything in one podcast.
No, but
it would be a very long podcast.
It would be a very long podcast.
There is so much we can learn from our dogs.
Yes,
and
absolutely. And what I want to point out is that a dog is always being trained for good or bad, whether we like it or not. And if we're pet dog owners, and these are pet dogs, we want to think about what we're doing and what the consequences are, what I call the ABCs of dog training, and how we can get round and set up management really of the situation. And managing your going back to work is one of the things that we suggest. You start now. You start to help them understand that they can't always have attention. You start to help them now understand that you're going to leave the room and they don't follow you. You start now to have them in their crate or in the kitchen and leaving them for 5 or 10 minutes at a time, and increase 5 or 10 minutes each time you leave them until you can leave them up to 2 hours. And for an adult dog, you'll be leaving them up to 4 hours, and then perhaps get somebody in to let them out during the day if you're out for longer than 4 hours is about long enough to leave.
My feeling is 4 hours of total isolation is quite a long time for even an adult dog. But can be done, and most dogs will adapt to that, and some dogs will do longer. But be prepared for a certain amount of anxiety if you're suddenly leaving your dog for long periods of time. Do consider daycare. Do consider doggy walkers, and do consider making provision. And of course, these things are going to get booked up very quickly. So do start making provision before you need to. And that doesn't just apply to lockdown. It applies to anybody who gets a puppy at any age and then finds that they're off to work, or circumstances change and they're not in the house all the time. It's not just people at work. It can happen for other reasons.
Yeah.
So it's something about making the dog I suppose, being a bit flexible. Would you
Yes,
think that's a good thing?
Yes, and talking about flexibility, I am very aware that we're running out of time.
Well, that's something to list up for one of the future podcasts.
And I'd just like you to say a little bit about dental hygiene.
Yeah, dental care. We were talking about chewing, and chewing obviously is a helpful thing. But chewing won't keep your dog's teeth in pristine health unless you do a little extra, and that really boils down to some form of brushing your dog. Now, there are some very good products for dogs to chew that are designed to help clean the mouth and clean the teeth, keep the plaque and subsequent tartar away from the teeth, because getting gum disease is the commonest thing in dog dentistry, as I've known over the years.
Yes,
so,
can I stop you there? Because I know you could go on for hours about teeth.
What I'm going to say is you might need to consider, in addition to giving your dog one of these chew things for dental work, is also actually to teach the dog to accept having its teeth brushed. And there are different sorts of brushes, all made especially for dogs' teeth, which, as you've noticed, are different to our teeth. So we find that there are a number of things, and maybe
also,
we could talk about that in more detail.
There are signs that you might have to go as far as going to the dentist for a dog, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And the dentist for the dog is, of course, the vet, who will have all the equipment and ability to do deep cleaning and all the sort of stuff that you would have on human teeth. But the important thing is to try and keep your dog from having to go in that by doing something at home on a very regular basis.
Right.
Perhaps I should leave it at that.
Yes, I think so. And also, I am really aware that I have really got to get on top of Penny's action prompting. And on that note, I think we'll draw the podcast to an end and say cheerio to everybody. And thank you for watching, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, and we hope you will join us again
at Lassie Talks podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Lassie Talks. If you would like to get in touch or have any questions, then please visit lassietalks.com or visit our Facebook and YouTube page. Every dog has a Lassie's heart. So remember, we need to make our homes the best place for our dogs to be. See you soon at the next episode of Lassie Talks. Lassie Talks was recorded and produced at Monkey Nut Audiobooks.